In today's era of the skip intro button, Attack on Titan is out here making a convincing case for the opening theme. The series has had 7 opening themes throughout its run so far, and each one is iconic in its own right. These openings are typically written and performed by a legendary rock band, and they're all incredibly catchy and memorable as complete songs. They also play an important part in world building, especially for a show with such a unique setting and aesthetic. I guess I would describe it as kind of a German diesel punk style. It takes a lot of commitment to pull that off effectively, and I think the opening themes do a lot of the heavy lifting here. And they also serve as kind of a narrative and emotional anchor as the characters and story evolve drastically. The opening themes are always there to guide you into a new phase of the show and recontextualize past events. I watched the entire series about a year ago when season 4 part 2 was coming out, and it was a pretty incredible journey. So I thought I would take a look back at all of the great opening themes and just see what really resonated with me. My criteria for this is mostly based around how memorable the theme was and also how well it defined the era of the show that it was presented alongside. So yeah, here's my ranking from worst to best. Okay, maybe I had you a little worried there when those first few notes played. I definitely would not be putting the very first opening at the bottom of this list. The band Linked Horizon actually reused the same opening notes from their season 1 theme in this season 3 theme. I think that's actually a really good idea to kind of reuse the same motif and incorporate some of the branding of the show there. I think if I was a producer on this series, that's the kind of idea I would probably be really on board with. But I also think this kind of direct callback kind of sets it up for failure because of just how iconic that season 1 theme was. I'll probably talk about this later in the video, but I'll just mention it here for the sake of comparison. That theme from season 1 really leaned into brass instruments like trumpets and horns, and choir, which really elevated the scale of the show. The melody was very simple and direct, and sung with more strength and sustained notes. There's still a bit of brass and choir in this season 3 theme, but they don't show up until later, and they kind of take a backseat to the vocals, which are more lyrical and follow a melody that's more uplifting but also meandering. There's also this twinkly piano, which almost sounds like something that you would hear in like a city pop song. I actually love city pop, and I think the song itself is really great, but in contrast to that season 1 theme, it definitely feels like a step down in scale and energy. When I think back to season 3, I think about all of the groundbreaking reveals, the sense of mystery, anticipation, and a bit of fear around what the future of the show was going to be. That's something that I wish I would have gotten from this theme. It's there in the lyrics a little bit, but I don't really get that from the music. Okay, only 2 themes into this list, and we're already at an iconic theme like The Wings of Freedom, also by the band Linked Horizon. This theme works so great for the second half of season 1 because it captures the sense of loyalty and duty that our main characters have as they graduate to the Survey Corps to go beyond the wall and fight the Titans. The theme starts out with this patriotic march, which actually sounds a lot like the national anthem here in Canada. Growing up, this would be played over the school speakers every morning, and everyone would have to stand up for it. So this is definitely drilled into my psyche as kind of like the embodiment of patriotic spirit. And then we go into what's probably the highest energy that we get from these themes. The trumpets are there, the choir's there, the screaming guitar riffs are there, and they even incorporate that same motif from the original theme, but I think they avoid a direct comparison here by not placing it right at the beginning of the song. And I think this theme probably captures more optimism than any other theme in the series. I think that works really well because it comes at a moment when our characters are growing in their abilities and agency, moving up the ranks, and moving on to new adventures where they can play a more driving role in the story. For season 3, they decided to go in a different direction. This is the 4th opening theme in the series, and the first that isn't basically a symphonic rock anthem by Linked Horizon. Instead, we have more of a rock ballad in a major key with a slightly bittersweet chord progression. There's a prominent piano ballad part, sustained guitar chords, a very tom-heavy, mellow drum beat, and even these heavily reverbed vocal ad-libs that kind of feel like they're almost like memories calling from the past. What's the truth? What to believe? I think this comes at an appropriate time in the series to look back and kind of ground everything in the relationships amongst our core protagonists. This season also contains backstories of several other important characters like Levi, Erwin, and Historia. Those are all shown in the visuals, and the music also creates this sense of looking back at a more innocent time while also facing an uncertain future together. The series took another big departure in tone as it progressed into the so-called final season. Our main characters had defeated the Titans, moved past the walls, reached the sea, and also learned the truth about the island and the advanced nation of Marley that was subjugating the Eldians and had been sending the Titans to the island to terrorize the people there. I think you could consider My War still within the symphonic rock genre, but it definitely feels more modernized in a way that's really fitting for this modern setting of Marley. Some of this comes from the dissonance of the chords and also the more present mixing of the drums and the distortion of the vocals, almost as if they're being sung over an old radio. The visuals of this opening are really unique in the series because they're more abstract and symbolic. It's stylized in this way where everything is colorless except for the weapons and the explosions, which are shown in various colors of the rainbow. And you don't even see any of the main characters until the very end when they show the Attack Titan. All of that comes together really effectively to basically signal that the show is heading in a new direction. I remember seeing this opening for the first time when those words, the final season, came across the screen. It really felt like the show was heading into its end game. In terms of theme, I think it also highlights how this season of the show kind of becomes more of a broader commentary on the nature of human conflict. Well, I spent a long time earlier talking about how iconic this very first opening is, so probably should have been pretty high up in the list. This actually isn't the very first thing that you hear in the series. The first episode of Attack on Titan starts out with shots of the colossal Titan standing outside the walls of our protagonist's hometown. You get that sense of scale visually, and the music in the scene is very dramatic. There's cinematic war drums, the choir, the strings. And then the episode cuts to the Survey Corps somewhere beyond the walls, killing Titans. It's a bit of a jarring cut, and the score also shifts from the epic style of music at the beginning to more of a rock beat. There's a drum kit, a distorted guitar riff, and then the brass and strings come in later to almost lend a triumphant tone to this scene, which is meant to establish the idea of humanity fighting back. So that's the stage that's set for the very first time that you hear this opening. And the opening theme combines both of these styles perfectly to deliver something that's dramatic and cinematic, but also a lot of fun. Even within this opening theme, there's a bit of a shift from a darker beginning to more of a triumphant conclusion. Yeah, probably don't need to say too much else here. It captures the tone of the series so well, especially those earlier seasons. It's extremely catchy. The syncopated melody really just drives things forward. Yeah, incredible way to kick off an iconic series. Linked Horizon's opening theme for Season 2 is definitely a worthy successor to their first Season 1 theme. It also has a syncopated melody which carries forward the DNA of the series without having to directly reference an earlier theme. The tempo is also a little bit slower than the Season 1 themes, so I feel like it has a more grounded sense of determination, which fits with the growth of the characters at this point. There's more of a sense of mystery with the harp at the beginning, the woodwinds line as it builds throughout the first verse, and then the restraint of that first verse where it just kind of sits in the darkness for a bit. And I think this theme actually surpasses the first theme from Season 1 in the structure and storytelling of the song. It's actually kind of hard to believe that it's only 90 seconds long because it really feels like a complete song. Like I said, it starts by holding back a bit, and then it builds throughout the first verse to represent the rising action of the series. Then we see the characters getting geared up as the tone shifts to more hopeful and determined. The song continues to build, and then everything opens up into what I think is the most memorable musical motif of the series. So the way I see it, this motif represents our main characters reaching the pinnacle of the military. This was their goal, to join the Survey Corps. And that's something that was explored in the opening theme that directly preceded this one, The Wings of Freedom. But then there's this key change, which kind of represents like the game changing, or our characters encountering things that they didn't know about or they didn't fully understand before. There's the Armored Titan, the Colossal Titan, Aaron's own Titan powers. And then there's another key change as we see the Beast Titan for the first time, and there's all these clips of other animals that almost look like old nature photographs. It all hints to there being more to the story, a rich history behind the Titans, and I think it just opens up the world in a very intriguing way. Okay, the rumbling. Honestly, it's a masterpiece. The metal band Sim took over for this last opening theme, and the change in style hits you hard. There's vocal textures that we haven't heard yet in the entire series. The bass and drums are so much heavier and more present, which gives this theme a lot more impact. And it's so fitting for the plot point that the title comes from, where a never-before-seen force of colossal titans is unleashed upon the world. I think this theme is a great example of the series' ability to reinvent itself, even halfway into its final season. Besides the genre being such a departure from previous themes, there's also a fundamental shift in perspective. The rumbling is the most personal opening theme of the series, being sung specifically from Aaron's point of view. The lyrics are simple and straightforward in a way that captures their earnesty. Previous themes were more poetic, which made them feel a little more omniscient or detached, rather than being from the perspective of a real character in this story experiencing the struggles of the moment. If I lose it all, slip and fall, I will never look away. If I lose it all, lose it all, lose it all. The structure of the theme flips back and forth between moments of rage and turmoil to more contemplative angst, to this longing for innocent times and the relationships that actually matter to Eren. The visuals also flip back and forth between the past and present in a way that highlights this twisted path that his values have taken. From his desire for freedom from Titans to see the world beyond the walls, eventually growing into his mission to destroy the world so that his people can be free. Before I wrap up here, I just want to mention that Sim also did a theme for the final season part 3. It's a song called Under the Tree, which I think is a really fantastic counterpart or even follow-up to The Rumbling. However, the final season part 3 just kind of cold opens. It doesn't actually have an opening credit sequence, so Under the Tree actually plays as an ending theme for the final season part 3. So I guess it's not actually eligible for this list, but I really enjoyed that song, and I probably would have placed it pretty high up. I'm gonna say at number 3. I have another video reacting to Under the Tree specifically, so you can check that out. And maybe if people show some interest, then I'll do another one of these rankings for the ending themes. Well, thanks so much for checking this out. Let me know what your rankings would be. Let me know if you agreed or disagreed with anything I said, if I missed or misinterpreted anything with the opening themes. I know this kind of thing is really subjective. I think what I'm most interested in is really just examining why things resonated with me and hearing about why maybe different things resonated with you. I'm not sure if Attack on Titan is going to be coming out with more opening themes. I'm definitely excited to see the final episodes when they come out in the fall. And yeah, I'm just curious and excited to see how they bring everything home. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.